broadcasting for a worldwide audience.
Hi, Nick and Hannah McMaster of Brighton-based alt-folk band The Sweet Ordeal, here with a very special and extended Finding Land folk show, Music from the Shores of Folk. Welcome.
Oh, I'm excited that it's extended, Nick. That always gets me excited.
Well, Hannah, as I said before, enough about our sordid love life.
Whether you are steeped in the genre like Nick, a toe dipper like me, or joining the journey for the first time, we are delighted that you can join us for a bumper edition of traditional and contemporary folk music. However, in a departure from our usual format, we are celebrating festival season.
Woohoo!
Are you wearing the appropriate clothes, Nick? Towards the end of the show, we will reveal an exclusive collaboration with Brighton and Hove Folk Festival and interview one of the organisers, Stephen Thomas. But before that, Nick, hold on to your oversized glittery hat.
Oh.
We're off to Glastonbury.
No way.
Hell yes.
Wow. Well, folk music has certainly made its mark across the years at Worthy Farm, an essential ingredient with a long and proud history. And to celebrate, we are going to travel from stage to stage at this year's festival and pick out songs from our favourite acts. So, Hannah, slip into your tiny cut-off denim shorts.
Will they fit me, Nick?
You know I love an uttock. Don your hunter wellies.
Will do.
Get some booze in a small plastic beaker. And make like Kate Moss. People, let's go Glasto!
Let's do it.
We kicked off at the Pyramid stage with Can't Let Go. How did you find that one, Hannah?
I loved it. I was there right at the front, dancing away, losing myself in the vibe of that song. It was great.
Brilliant. The lead single from their 2021 album, Raising the Roof, by former Led Zeppelin frontman and multiple band botherer Robert Plant and bluegrass star Alison Krauss. They first started collaborating in 2007 and then had a massive 14-year hiatus between albums. But now we rush off to the BBC introducing stage, the next nearest stage on our tour, to listen to Ladbroke Grove, London's dreamy alternative celestial folk duo, Pet Deaths. From their 2019 album, To the Top of the Hill and Roll, this is At the Bottom of the Hill.
Sat down, covered in gold crowns. I opened my hands and cried. I could have curled up and died. Hold me after you struck me. Hiding love under shades to the top of the hill and roll. Lonely twilight. I know you've heard this before. No need for luck anymore. Is my life still stuck in old times? Always sit on the broken chair like some strange Greek tragedy. Maybe I should have agreed. As love has its time and place, like when we were honest then. Lonely twilight. I know you've heard this before. No need for luck anymore. Lonely twilight. I know you've heard this before. No need for luck anymore.
Beautiful song. And To the Top of the Hill and Roll, does that remind you, Nick, of when you were a young whippersnapper and you rolled a tractor tyre down a hill and hit an ice cream van and then got caned for it? 'Cause that was the first thing that came into my head.
I couldn't possibly answer that, and I refer you to my lawyer.
Oh, your Grange Hill school days. So we now head straight south down past two bars. Two bars, Nick. Are we stopping for a beer yet?
I'm not sure if they have craft, but I suppose I would accept a little shandy right now.
Okay, a little shandy. And the Lonely Hearts Club, and head for the other stage to settle down to the magnificent Swedish indie folk duo of sisters Clara and Johanna Soderberg, who embrace melodic Americana and country intertwined with their unmistakable, lush harmonies. This is, of course, First Aid Kit and their current gorgeous single, Angel.
I've been afraid all of my life, crippled with anxiety, shame and doubt, and sometimes I'd like to shout at the top of my lungs and just let it out. What has that fear ever done for me? Ooh, but hold me back. Oh, what has jealousy and hate ever done for you? But remind you of what you think you lack. So give me love and give me compassion, self-forgiveness and give me some passion. I love you, even if you don't love me. Ooh, I love you, even if you can't love me. All of this pain that I've kept concealed, but if I didn't speak it, it wouldn't be real. But sometimes I feel I have to shout at the top of my lungs and just let it out. What has that fear ever done for me? Ooh, but hold me back. So give me love and give me compassion, self-forgiveness and give me some passion. I love you, even if you don't love me. Ooh, I love you, even if you can't love me. You've been staring at your mirror, trying to make the picture clearer. But angel, can't you see who's in front of you? So give me love and give me compassion, self-forgiveness and give me some passion. I love you, even if you don't love me. I love you, oh can't you see you're free? Oh angel, can't you see you're free? Oh angel, can't you see you're free?
Ah, Hannah, fantastic.
Beautiful, beautiful. I was having one of those festival moments there. The sun was, shining, and I was feeling the music, and I was loving every moment of that.
You may well have been, Hannah, but I have to say that might be the last time I have you on my shoulders. I'm absolutely knackered.
Well, as you would be right to be.
Also, I'm not sure you were the right way round, because all I could see was your tummy and not the first aid kit. A mere hop and a skip to the left field stage, which has to be the festival's best stage, being surrounded by 4 bars.
4 bars. 4 bars, Nick.
There must be some craft ale there.
It's got to be.
To witness the striking vocals of one of the breakout stars of 2022 in Glaswegian troubadour, Dylan John Thomas, who manages to combine lyrics of unflinchingly honest realism while seemingly making them feel somehow uplifting. From his eponymous 2021 EP, Dylan John Thomas, this is Wake Up Ma.
Can I just ask how much of the pints we're buying and whose round is it?
I'll tell you during the song.
Thunder beats the door, another fight, another war, another crack in the window pane. Mother's on the floor, knocked out cold, that's for sure. Daddy's bolted once again. Ma, wake up, Ma. Ma, wake up, Ma. Wake up, Ma. It's me. Wake up, Ma. 15 foster homes, 3 meals a day. Can't fill the hole left in my heart. Social workers come once in 5 months to reaffirm it's not my turn to see my ma. Ma, wake up, Ma. Ma, wake up, Ma. Wake up, Ma. It's me. Wake up, Ma.
Love the production on that song, Hannah.
Really good, really good.
Unsurprisingly, Hannah, being called Dylan, we can easily guess who he was named after.
Is it the rabbit from the Magic Roundabout?
And of course, he has the voice to match. On that basis, if you were named after a singer with your voice, I suspect you'd be called Chris Rea. Who would I be called, Hannah?
I think you would be Timmy Mallet. I think we can class him as a singer.
Unbelievable.
So we're leaving the left field stage now and we're working our way south past the Glade and then moving westwards through Pennard Hill ground, past the property lockup and the ATM. Do we need to get some cash out, Nick, or are we all right at the moment?
You need to get some cash out, Hannah.
Unbelievable. That's why I'm going to start moaning now, aren't I? It's so expensive.
I've left my card at home.
You always do. There, in the vicinity of the Dancy Stonebridge Bar and the solar-panelled teepee of the Bimble Inn, we'll find the Park Stage and the supremely talented acoustic fingerstyle guitarist and North Virginian Yasmin Williams. who, despite earning a degree in music theory and composition from New York University, was inspired to start learning the guitar from the video game Guitar Hero 2. And why not?
Actually, Hannah, that might not be the most intriguing thing about Williams. She actually plays the guitar in a really inventive way, tuning the strings to be in harmony with the guitar sitting on her lap. She also adds in other elements such as finger tapping to introduce rhythm to her compositions, and other instruments such as the kalimba, which she'll rest on the body of the guitar behind the bridge. It's really worth seeing her in action on YouTube.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. I will be visiting her in action on YouTube just after we've done this. However, we're going to be watching her now, aren't we, in our imaginary festival?
Oh, yeah, of course, sorry. Oopsie.
This is from her mesmerising 2018 album, Unwind. This is Yasmin Williams' Restless Heart. Wow. I mean, I'm going to be going straight down Argos later and buying Guitar Hero 2. If it works for her, if I can start playing like that, wow. I mean,
although before you go to Argos, I have a £20 voucher from Woolworths if you want to use that first. I was going to give it to you for Christmas, but have it now.
Well, thank you very much. I'll really look forward to that on Christmas Day. I mean, that was so great. What I really loved about that was her making the beats with the guitar, the kind of rhythmic nature of the music was Brilliant.
Yeah, I think she's like using her knuckles
Yeah.
maybe to rap
Yeah.
onto the body of the guitar. Amazing.
Loved it.
To be that talented.
Oh.
Grrr.
We work our way back now through Pennard Hill Ground. I just need to ask Nick, am I getting tired or grumpy yet?
You're definitely getting grumpy because I wouldn't let you get that sparkly boob tube from that hippie stall just around the corner.
Oh, damn it. So Pennard Hill Ground is commonly known as Pennard's and is one of the festival's most coveted camping fields, being in the centre of the festival and known for its non-stop party vibes.
Hannah, that sounds a very full-on place. So I want to know, is there an afternoon nap field?
Do you know what? Glastonbury's so massive. I bet there is.
Because I need to go to it soon.
You will. You definitely will. On the eastern side and above the Healing Field is the Green Futures Field, where we came across two smaller stages, Toad Hall and Small World. First up, Steve Knightley and the song Castaway.
Walk in the woodland, stare at the rain, hearing a voice in the breeze. The wind was changing, I couldn't stay, found myself running in the trees. The lights below from houses and farms, distant ships out in the bay. And there in the space between dark and light, I fell from the edge of the day. No signal, no siren, no warning lights on my way. I woke on the shores of an island, cast away. Cold air found me, sleeping in sand, waiting for feeling to return. With no one around me, I walked on the strand, looking for driftwood to burn. As the ashes and smoke drift in the sky, watching the future slip away. And there in the space between dusk and dawn, I fell from the edge of the day. No signal, no siren, no warning sign on my way. I woke on the shores of an island, cast away, cast away, cast away. I walk in footsteps that might be mine, sun in the wrong half of the sky, stare in the distance, looking for sails of another stranger passing by, feeling like a shark lost in the deep, sinking every second it's still. And there in the space between sunset and day, something inside wasn't filled. How long will I wait? How many years must I stay? Staring into distance, cast away. No signal, no siren, no warning sign on my way. Looking at the horizon, cast away, cast away.
Just another day in the Paradise Circus. They say they only want to heal, not hurt us. But we are dust. We are dust. upon your bones. Everybody sees, but no one knows. The light shines on the sockets of your eyes, and we all just sit and watch and wonder who next dies. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day in the paradise circus. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day. Loneliness is a sin that we cannot condone, so we forget how to be alone. Someone whispered, someone said, and we all just sit and watch and wonder who's next dead. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day in the paradise circus. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day in the paradise circus. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day. We begin to rust. Return to dust. We begin to rust. Return to dust. We begin to rust. Return to dust. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day in the paradise circus. We begin to rust, return to dust, just another day.
On the Toad Hall stage, you've just heard Stephen Knightley, acclaimed English singer, songwriter, acoustic musician, and one half of folk roots duo Show of Hands, with Castaway from his 2007 album Cruel River. Following on, the Small World stage was the beguiling, twisted neo-folk of West Country five-piece Young Waters, with the haunting harmonies of Dust.
I loved the vocals in that song. That was great vocals, real sort of full of character there.
Absolutely. I like they were quite staccato in places and they weaved in and out of each other. I mean, they're amazing. And Hannah will definitely be playing these rising stars again.
I really hope so, because I really enjoyed that.
I predict they've got a really big future.
I hope so, because I've, especially dressed up for this festival. I'm wearing my festival jumpsuit. I'm really feeling the vibes. So, I want to see some up-and-coming acts who I can then say, I was there, man.
Also, I've bet our entire savings on that happening at William Hill. Other gambling operators are available, but don't go.
Don't gamble, kids. It's not good. Now we sprint over to the adjacent Croissant Neuf stage.
Before that, Hannah, do you need to go to the toilet?
I might do, but you know what I feel about those portaloos. They're not nice. And I'm wearing a jumpsuit.
Hold it in then. Come on.
The Croissant Neuf stage started life as a circus and busking troupe over 30 years ago, to then morph into a touring solar-panelled venue. Here we come across an Americana band formed of Swedish sisters again. Not First Aid Kit, but self-anointed queens of banjo punk, the effervescent Greta, Stella and Sunniva Bonderson, known as Baskery. This is Shame and Dance.
To me again, her bony legs and rubber boots and an attic full of lies, spitting over key. Well, I can see she's trying. She believes that she can fool the kids, her mom and me, but this can't gonna hit. No, and what you would do to liars, you beat them up. Shame on you. Oh, tonight, shame on you, tonight, shame on you, shame on you, tonight. Oh, shame and dance, dance for us, baby. Oh, shame on, shame on, shame on, shame on you. Oh, shame and dance, dance for us.
That was great fun. I loved that. And they really reminded me, Nick, of Cats and Jammer, who we saw quite a few years ago at a festival. They were fantastic too.
It was at Cropredy.
It was. And we need to feature them in a later show.
Oh, get you suggesting programming choices, but make a little note of it and I'll consider it. Oh, Hannah, I told you to go to the toilet. Look at you. We're now going to have to buy an emergency caftan.
Oh, no.
You've got to get over your fear of portaloos.
I know. Otherwise I end up in these terrible, terrible conundrums, don't I, Nick?
Unbelievable. Over the main Dragonout and northeast towards the Avalon stage, where we keep the energy up with another three-piece, this time from the witty folk punk of Stornoway's Pete and Diesel. Hannah, hold on to your pints.
I'm holding on.
From their 2019 album, Uptown Fank, this is Country Boy. Wow, Hannah.
Oh, brilliant. Loved it.
Even you relented and hooked arms with a crusty and danced to that tune.
I did indeed.
You're really getting into the festival spirit.
I really am, aren't I?
I really think your hair's getting quite matted. From here, we wend our way to the West Holt stage.
Can I just ask, Nick, whose round is it currently?
I think it's still yours, trust me. And the sublime sounds of Pakistan-born Arooj Aftab, a singer-songwriter who floats between New Age, classical minimalism, Sufi devotional poetry and electronica.
Wow, that's quite a list.
From April of this year, this is her single, Di Mi Nombre, or Say My Name.
Que la cosa
finally, tired and emotional and perhaps a little tipsy.
Hannah, let me stop you there. I think we're actually quite drunk.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I know this.
Why's that?
I've just bought a Diablo.
Oh, jeez. Please, no. Please, no.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Well, hopefully we'll just lose it before we leave the compound.
Compound? Unbelievable. We're not at some kind of prison camp.
We complete our Glastonbury journey by hiking up to the acoustic stage next to the legendary, internationally renowned Pilton Palais Cinema and overlooking Tony Benn Tower and a shower block. We take off our wellies, sit down and slowly doze off to the shanty group The Fisherman's Friends, accompanied by Dublin-born singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Imelda May, singing Cornwall, My Home. Can I just say, though, Nick, is Cornwall anyone's home anymore? It's just second homes, isn't it, now?
Oh, you're getting so political, girlfriend. Go and join Billy Bragg.
Well, I stopped off at that political tent. I'm feeling it now.
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn.
And I've probably had too many beers now.
You have. Do you want to use my Diablo? Go on.
I stood on Cape Cornwall in the sun's evening glow, on Tune Hill at Newland to watch the fishing fleets go, watch the sheet whales and keeper as they spun around, and heard the men singing as they go underground, and no one will ever move me from this land until the Lord calls me to sit at his hand, for this is my Eden and I'm not alone, for this is my Cornwall and this is my home. I've left childish footsteps in the soft sand and sand. I've chased the maize there all quickly and tan. I've stood on a cliff top in a westerly blow and heard the waves thunder on the rocks far below, and no one will ever move me from this land until the Lord calls me to sit at his hand, for this is my Eden and I'm not alone, for this is my Cornwall and this is my home. First thing in the morning on Chapel Combray to gaze at the lilies in the blue far away, for this is my Cornwall and I'll tell you why. Because I was born here and here I shall die, and no one will ever move me from this land until the Lord calls me to sit at his hand, for this is my Eden and I'm not alone, for this is my Cornwall and this is my home, for this is my Cornwall and this is my home.
That, Hannah, brings our Glastonbury journey to an end.
Oh, I had so much fun.
Did you love it?
I really loved it. Yeah, I loved all the music. You know, I even embraced the Diablo at the end.
You really did. Absolutely. Though it was a bit embarrassing when it hit that child on the head.
That was a beautiful song by the Fisherman's Friends. And do you remember when we saw that shanty group at the Duke of Wellington's in Shoreham?
The Wellington Whalers, in fact.
That was great. There's something really wonderful listening to a lot of voices together making beautiful music.
Absolutely, it is. And yeah, let's see if we can dig out a tune from them at some point.
I really enjoyed that. You are listening to Finding Land Folk Show with Nick and Hannah McMaster of the Sweet Ordeal on Radio Lewes, where music matters. At this stage of the show, we would normally be gently reminding you to follow us on social media and to email us at thesweetordeal@gmail.com with your requests. Please do.
But hold on, listener.
Oh, my goodness me, something else?
Rather than leave you in a field, we are going to grab you, your hangover, your sunburn, your ill-advisedly bought linen clown pants, and your cheap pop-up tent, shove you in the back of our camper van, and bring you back to civilization.
Oh, my goodness me, where are we going?
You'll need a shower, of course, and maybe a Bloody Mary or two, the ultimate cure for those who are tired and emotional. But you can keep the denim cut-off shorts.
Oh, thank you.
Because you look really cute in those.
Yes, you do. And we are going to build up your festival spirit all over again by previewing September's Brighton and Hove Folk Festival, headlined by gold standard folk legends Martin and Eliza Carthy, and featuring traditional and modern folk acts, including Ben Walker, Rachel Dadd, and many more. Nick took some time out from looking after me to interview festival co-founder Stephen Thomas. Before that piece of broadcasting heaven, let's hear from the Carthys, from their 2014 album, The Moral of the Elephant, on Topic Records. This is the spine-tingling Grand Conversation on Napoleon.
Was over that wild beaten track, a friend of that bold Bonaparte. It paced the sands and loved the rocks of Saint Helena's shore. The wind blew in a hurricane, the lightning flashed around it dark. The seagulls were all shrieking, and the waves around it roll. Oh, shrewd winds, the stranger cried, while I do range this dreary spot, where last the gallant hero his heavy eyes did close. But while his valiant limbs do rot, his name will never be forgot. This grand conversation on Napoleon arose. Oh, England, he cried, why did you persecute that hero bold? Much better had you slain him on the plains of Waterloo. Napoleon, he was a friend to heroes all both young and old. He caused the money for to fly wherever he did go. Plans were arranging night and day this bold commander to betray. He cries, I'll go to Moscow and then will ease my woes, if fortune shine without delay. All the world shall me obey. This grand conversation on Napoleon arose. Thousands and thousands then did rise to conquer Moscow by surprise. He led his men across the Alps, oppressed by frost and snow. Being near the Russian lands, he then began to open his eyes. All Moscow was a-blazing and his men drove to and fro. Napoleon dauntless viewed the flames, he wept in anguish for the same. He cried, retreat my gallant men, our time to swiftly go. 1,000 died on that retreat, some were their horses forced to eat. This grand conversation on Napoleon arose. At Waterloo his men they fought, commanded by great Bonaparte, attended by Field Marshal Ney, and he was bribed with gold. When Blucher led the Prussians in, it nearly broke Napoleon's heart. He cried, my 30,000 men are slain and I am sold. He viewed the plains and cried, 'tis lost. 'Twas then his favourite charger crossed. The plains were in confusion with the blood and dying walls. The butcher roses did advance and boldly entered into France. This grand conversation on Napoleon arose.
But Bonaparte was planned to be a prisoner across the sea. The rocks of St. Helena, it was the fatal spot. And as a prisoner there to be till death did end his misery, his son soon followed to the tomb. It was an awful plot. And long enough they have been dead, the blast of war is round us spread, and may our shipping float again to face the daring foe. And now, my boys, when honour calls, we'll boldly mount the wooden walls. This grand conversation on Napoleon did close.
Radio Lewes. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.
Hopefully the eagle-eyed, and I don't know what the equivalent of eared would be, bat-eared amongst you will be aware of Brighton and Hove's Folk Festival as promoted by Folk Room, the live folk music promoters and record label founded in London. The festival returns for its second edition at Pattons on September the 10th, 2022. Folk Room was found by writer and promoter Stephen Thomas and award-winning folk artist Ben Walker. And I'm delighted to have one half of Folk Room here. It's Stephen Thomas. Stephen will be playing us a selection of folk tunes and telling us a little about all things Folk Room. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Not too bad.
Great to have you on Finding Land Folk Show, and hopefully these questions won't be too stressful for you on a Sunday morning when we're recording. Perhaps you can tell us a bit about your background and how you came to launch Folk Room.
Of course. I'm not from any sort of place where I really grew up with folk music, if I'm honest. I grew up in a household where Billy Joel was the biggest sort of feature on our record player, but when I sort of went up to university, I started to discover more contemporary folk sounds. It was the beginning of sort of the Laura Marling, Mumford & Sons era, but also I was listening to Bob Dylan for the first time. My parents never really liked his voice, and the moment I heard him, I realised he was obviously one of the greats. So when I finished university and moved to London, I'd found a lot of acts, sort of upcoming British London-based folk acts who I wanted to see live, but they were always sandwiched in between metal acts and playing venues that just didn't work. So very shortly after moving to London, I decided to start Folk Room. It was remains a fortnightly gig, free entry, so that people can come and discover acts and the acts themselves can play in a place where they know they'll be received well. They know they'll be placed with other musicians that fit what they're doing. And ultimately you have a welcoming sort of community for folk fans.
So is it really important that you create a pipeline, a venue for new and emerging artists then? Is that a real part of what Folk Room is about?
I think it is. I think over the last few years as well, particularly, and especially the last year coming out of the pandemic, we've seen a lot less venues available for new musicians and new folk musicians in particular. So giving them a place where they can come and play their music and be discovered by other fans and other musicians is key. I think it's also been quite good for us as we've gone on. We have done other gigs, bigger gigs with established acts, and that's enabled us to bring those acts who've been playing with us for the last almost 12 years now and give them a chance to show off with new audiences.
You've nurtured along with the acts you had at the beginning and still have a strong relationship with them.
Yeah, sort of over time we've seen a lot. Actually, we've been quite fortunate. It's also always a little bit frustrating when we get acts who grow and become big enough that we can't really host them anymore. So there's a lot of acts that I'd love to still have along at Folk Room, but we can't afford them now. You know, we've been really lucky. We had so Catherine Priddy's a good example, who played for us a few times, but now is, you know, she's about to tour with Loudon Wainwright. She's in the album charts and has been for quite some time now. I think it's about a year her album's been out and she's still doing great. And those sort of acts are ones which are really the best thing to see, you know, being able to see an act who has played for you for several years go on and make a name for themselves. So it's a real joy.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really great about folk is it's more maybe easily accessible to see folk acts grow. You can see them at grassroots level and move through different size venues and touring and then being at bigger venues and festivals. And that's always a pleasure, I think, to see these kind of bands. I remember seeing the Staves in the smaller part of the Comedia in Brighton.
Oh, that's a lovely place to see them.
7-8 years ago. And now look at them. And I think a part of Finding Land Folk Show as well is we're trying to promote and showcase Sussex-based folk acts. And some of them have, you know, got very small following on social media, but they're still really talented and intriguing artists. And it's great to give them a platform as well. But let's hear your first song choice. So you've picked Rachel Dadd, who's English folk musician, I believe, based in Bristol, and she tours pretty extensively and regularly collaborates with This Is the Kate Stables and Rosie Plain. And you've picked a track, Moon Sails. Why this choice?
In part, it's because it's the one that captures Rachel Dadd right now at this moment. It's actually her most recent single. She's got a new album coming out, I think, in October, and so this song's hot off the press, as it were, and it's a perfect example of why I love Rachel Dadd's music. She's really innovative, really idiosyncratic with how she approaches folk. It's a very contemporary folk sound, but you can still pick up on, you know, hundreds of years of folk influences.
Yeah, I love that journey of folk, the way you can, like you say, go back centuries, but also be really modern at the same time. So this is the lead single from the upcoming album, as you mentioned, Kaleidoscope, which is on the Memphis Industries record label. And like a lot of folk artists, I think, experience, this album was created in the middle of lockdown. And I read that she sought to escape through songwriting, and she spoke about hoping the experience for the listener is to feel held and find space to breathe, grieve and celebrate, and I certainly get that feel. Let's give it a listen. So this is Moon Sails.
Moon
So that was Moon Sails by Rachel Dad, and I feel, Stephen, that's you're perfectly right. There's that nods to history, but it's so very contemporary as well, and it's got that lovely sort of 70s dreamy synth feel, and the way it wraps around her kind of silky vocals and builds up to strings and brass. Way I felt about it was like we mentioned the Staves earlier. It's almost like the Staves had moved to LA. It was just a really lush track.
Yeah, I was actually listening to the end of that, and I was about to say the Staves myself. It reminds me a lot of sort of their more recent albums. But you're right, very much sort of Laurel Canyon sound. But
yeah. And it's I sort of listened to some of Rachel Dad's previous work, and it feels like this is really going in a bit of a new direction. The best way I could describe it, in a way, that her previous sound was kind of more percussive and more obviously, say, folky, and the instrumentation, the production is more kind of defined, whereas this is much more multi-layered. And the metaphor I could come up with, it's a difference between paddling on Brighton Beach and floating in the sea of Venice Beach.
Yeah, that's good.
But no, I mean, thanks for sharing this tune. Absolutely beautiful. And Rachel is playing at the folk festival.
That she is.
So you've got Brighton Hove Folk Festival. You said you started in London. What's the connection with Brighton?
Quite simply, I moved there. Yeah, I was in London for 7 years or so running Folk Room. Met Ben Walker, who was sort of running the sound elements and also our label side for that time. Ben moved away down to Brighton as it happened, and then shortly after, I think actually he told me he was moving to Brighton the same day I said that I was planning on moving to Brighton, and we both found ourselves down there, and it made perfect sense that we continued what we were doing. So we kept Folk Room running in London with friends and members of the, sort of the community we built helping out, and started it down there as well. And it was a really interesting experience. It was starting from scratch in a lot of ways, but also we had folk musicians and friends that we'd met from the London gigs who lived there, and it quickly sort of became a thing of its own. What was quite nice is that a lot of the acts around Brighton have a much more distinctly trad folk sort of feel and influence on what they do, which meant that for the first time, having, you know, had to discover folk myself as a teenager and listening to Sufjan Stevens, Bob Dylan, and more contemporary stuff still like Laura Marling, it was the first time I really got to engage with the traditional side in depth. Ben knew it well. Ben was by that point an award-winning traditional folk artist, but that was really the discovery. And so as that built, it sort of became obvious there was a space for a folk festival in the south, in Sussex in particular. Lewes used to have one, and unfortunately it shut down a couple of years ago. So yeah, we thought it would be a great opportunity to share the music we love in Brighton, and also mix both the contemporary and trad sides of the genre.
So tell me about your second artist, who I believe is also playing at the Brighton and Hove Folk Festival on September the 10th at Patton's in Brighton. This is Gwennifer Raymond, who is a Welsh multi-instrumentalist, originally from Cardiff, but now, for the benefit of our city, residing in Brighton.
Yeah, she's an absolutely incredible talent. We've been lucky enough to work with her on a fair few gigs now, and I'm always blown away. She is one of these acts who came in and started playing in our free gigs. Now, very much we're selling ticketed gigs if she ever comes by, and we're thrilled to have a headline the second stage at our festival this year. She is, like you say, she's from Wales, but has sort of settled now in Brighton, and is just one of the most remarkable musicians I've met. She plays clawhammer guitar, which is a sort of specific approach to traditional guitar playing from the US. It's traditionally as well, or not in any sort of any purposeful way, but it's just a genre that's been very, very much led by men for years and years. Even the wider technique, or the wider genre around it, which I think is called American primitive, has these sort of dated connotations in the name. And I think Gwennifer's a great example of taking a genre, taking the older ideas and building them, developing them, and, you know, claiming the great stuff and sort of shying away from the things, or remembering but not focusing anymore on those elements. Her guitar is just completely enthralling when you're watching her. It's an intense show, and I think she's one of the most impressive live musicians, particularly for an instrumental musician, I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing her. As you say, I mean, you've described it so beautifully. She is an absolutely immense talent. And for those listeners who are not very deep in the folk genre, clawhammer is probably more associated actually with playing the banjo. So that's another area where she sort of stands out on. And the best way of describing it is the strings are struck using the back of your index or middle fingernail, then alternately plucked with your thumb. So it's a mesmerizing technique that's amazingly percussive and amazingly absorbing. I think we could talk about her forever, but let's hear her play. This is a single, Sometimes There's Blood, from the album You Were Never Much of a Dancer on the Tompkins Square record label, and that was from 2018. So that was the absolutely astonishingly talented Gwennifer Raymond and the tune Sometimes There's Blood. And you spoke, Stephen, about the kind of American primitive tradition, and you can really there's a number of terms that are used for this field of music, of course, aren't there, but you can really feel the inspiration of the Appalachian music in her sound, and what you probably can hear is British folk in there. Appalachian music was also derived from the blues of early African Americans, and of course then that went on to kind of inform bluegrass, and then we can go on our journey. But an amazing artist, Stephen.
Like I say, one of my favorites, particularly one of the best live acts I've ever seen. It's genuinely stunning how she can hold an entire room in her hand while that hand is, like you say, hitting the guitar with the back of the knuckle and the thumb.
Absolutely. And where does folk room sit with trying to promote instrumentalists, as obviously well as the tradition of the singer-songwriter and the lyric? Where do you sit? Do you try and source that out? Because I guess it's an area that is less exposed in kind of the folk circuit to a degree.
It definitely is, and I think it's important at folk room that I've had a long-standing rule, and the only thing really with the music I book at folk rooms, I have to be able to defend it to a drunken heckler at the back of the room. That's the only thing. Everything else about folk, I want to be able to show off. There's nothing stopping me. And so we have shanty bands come through. We have, Appalachian influences. We have the last gig I hosted was headlined by a Brazilian musician playing Balkan-influenced folk music. And I think instrumental music is always going to be a part of that, not least because Ben Walker, the other half of Folk Room, is primarily an instrumental folk musician himself. We put out his albums at the moment, and though they feature very often guest vocalists, the core of what he does is instrumental. And so I've been lucky enough to be exposed to this absolutely tremendous music that he puts out for years now. And I think when it's done really well, it's one of the most engaging things. It's just every bit as much enjoyable and watchable as anything else. So yeah, it's very much a case of we put on the music we think people will like, and we also know that people don't often hear different things that they might like. So it's sharing everything. And if I like it and I think someone else might like it, chances are it will be at a folk room gig.
So you mentioned Ben, and are you saying he was your sound engineer when you first met?
Yeah, so the first time he came and played for folk room, that's how I met him. I booked him to play in the duo he was in at the time, and I was fresh off the starting blocks. I was about 4 gigs into doing folk room. I did not know what I was doing. I could not run sound. I had one speaker and no idea what I was doing. And he liked the booking, the way I approached everything else, and offered to come and do sound. And he did that for 6 or so years that he was in London at the same time I was. And then when we moved down to Brighton, kicked it back off. So he still runs our gigs in Brighton. I've since moved away again, now trying to see if I can start up folk room up in Nottingham. And it's been a joy. It's been one of those things where you get to work alongside a friend. You get to have them do the work that you can't do, and you can do the work they can't do. But also, I think more than anything else, it's been a great way to expand my own musical awareness and horizons.
We're going to go on now to your third choice. Now, this is an artist that isn't playing at the Brighton Hove Folk Festival. I wanted to give you a challenge of not self-promoting, but to pick another artist. And I'd not come across this person before, and I found him really exciting. This is Tom Ashworth, and he's going to be playing Ratcliffe Highway. Tell me a bit about Tom.
I mean, I didn't entirely not self-promote here. Tom Ashworth is a musician who played the first festival we did last year, and he's played many gigs for us over the years. He's one of those artists that you hear and you just want everyone to know about, and it remains my mission. His first album Headcanon, which this is off, came out a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, and I think has been overlooked as one of the best folk debuts of the last 20 years. He's a remarkable musician. He's got an absolutely stunning voice, but he also approaches folk, traditional folk for the most part, though he writes his own great songs as well. He approaches folk in a slightly different way, which is to say that he's a bassist, a bass guitarist, and it's a really unique thing to watch someone with a voice like Tom doing very often very stripped back live sets with just a bass guitar that again mesmerizes you. We were lucky recently to put him on supporting Martin Carthy, who I think was a really great fit for him, because that's where I see Tom. I see Tom as in that field of a great champion and reinterpreter of folk music. And Ratcliffe Highway for me is the standout track on that first album. It's actually a little bit further away from the bass and vocals I've just been talking about, because it is a really full-on heavy, loud folk track. It's a bit sort of the folk rock of the 60s and 70s, and it's a revelation.
You've said that beautifully. I've got some things to add, but the way you said that, and having already obviously listened to the tune, I mean, I don't think you can be accused of hyperbole, by the way. So let's hear Tom Ashworth and Ratcliffe Highway. And as Stephen says, this is from the 2019 album Headcanon.
As I was a-walking all along Radcliffe Highway, the recruiting party come a-beating the drum. I was listed and attested, and before I did know, it's to the King's duty I was forced to go. Well, I quickly escaped, and I thought myself free, till my cruel companions informed against me. I was quickly followed after and brought back with speed. In chains I was hung, heavy irons on me. Court martial, they held against me, and the sentence they gave me was 303. May the Lord have mercy on them for their sad cruelty, for now the King's duty lies heavy on me. And I thought myself free, till my cruel sweetheart informed against me. I was quickly followed after and brought back with speed. In chains I was hung, heavy irons on me. Court martial, I very soon got, and they quickly passed sentence that I should be shot. May the Lord have mercy on them for their sad cruelty, for now the King's duty lies heavy on me. Court martial, they held against me, and the sentence they gave me was 303. May the Lord have mercy on them for their sad cruelty, for now the King's duty lies heavy on me.
So that was Ratcliffe Highway, and you probably picked up from the lyrics that it's a song about being press-ganged, about escaping and punishment. And you mentioned Martin Carthy, and I know they've also been compared to the amazing Richard Thompson as well. And it does have a real feel of early Fairport Convention about it, which I think is a great compliment myself. And actually, funny enough, you're right, Stephen. You don't really hear the four-string bass so much on that one.
No, you don't. I cheated you out of that a little bit, but that's an excuse to go find that album, Headcanon, and explore it in full.
Absolutely. And I would say he's definitely, and we always need this in folk, he's the new generation of protest singers. And as with Ratcliffe Highway, that's interpreting traditional song, but he's also a contemporary political songwriter. And I think that's really needed. And just to square the circle on everything for the fans of the show that like more detail, Tom originally hailed from Hampshire, but now calls East London his home. He also reminds me of an artist called Johnny Flynn. I know of him, and they've got that just a voice of the ages. It just feels like that you could hear that voice in any generation of folk music, and it will cut through with its power and the way that lyrics are interpreted. A beautiful voice as well. So, Stephen, we've spoken about some of these artists, Gwennifer Raymond, working in a field really in an area that is very male dominated. We talked about, Tom Ashworth is, the new generation of protest singers, and Rachel Dadd is someone that, whilst you can feel the history of folk, is pushing it forward into other areas of music. But where do you see folk, without being too heavy, where do you see folk music in today's society? Does it have a place?
Oh, it absolutely has a place. It's always had a place. It's just a matter of how much society embraces it. For me, folk is both a genre that allows us to connect with our past, but also very much helps us to engage with and build our future. I think it's really good for people to be able to discover our history in a way that's perhaps more engaging than a lot of other ways. If you can sit and you can read, and it can be a fantastic way to understand more, but folk connects us with the emotions and the reality of our history because it was written by the people who were living it. And at the same time, it's a method that we can now use to engage with what we're going through at the moment and what's going to happen in the future, and to leave our mark for people 10, 15, 100 years down the line to listen to and understand where we were. As you said, Tom Ashworth is a great interpreter of songs that have protest backgrounds, and he writes his own protest songs as well. And protest has always had a very, very key part in the folk scene. With that, again, you say Gwennifer Raymond standing out as a woman in a overly male-dominated scene, it allows us to look at issues and areas that are not unique to folk, that we see across society and across our culture, and engage with them in a way that can highlight and can share and inform, but also actively make a difference. I think the festival is really a great example of the variety that folk offers right now. We've got a lot of trad acts, and we've got a lot of acts that are reinterpreting traditional songs in a way that still keeps their initial truth. But we also have every element of folk at the moment. We have folk from Haiti. So we've got this sort of understanding that I don't think we've had so much historically of folk being something that isn't an English genre. It's a global genre. The music that is sung by people around the world is not unique to us as a concept. But we also have singer-songwriters that are pushing it into a much more contemporary, almost pop element, as well as those who are writing brand new story-based, narrative-based folk songs like Kirsty Merrin. There's nothing really that folk isn't able to engage with in society. And I think that makes it one of the most important genres that we could ever have.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That's been fascinating, and I hope we can get you on the show again, because you've certainly got a lot to say about the wonder of folk music. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you soon, and enjoy the rest of your day.
I will do. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care, mate. Take care.
Thanks so much there to Stephen Thomas from Folk Room. Really looking forward to the Brighton and Hove Folk Festival on September the 10th at Pattons in Brighton. Really looking forward to the fact that Finding Land Folk Show, Hannah, will be there.
Yes, we will.
Interviewing the acts, listening to the music and taking up Stephen's generous offer of free beer in the green room.
I'm not sure I remember him saying that.
Oh, well, we might have to disagree on that one. I'm sure he whispered it to me. Did you enjoy the interview?
I really enjoyed it, Nick. It was really interesting. Great music choices. It's made me even more excited about going to the Folk Festival.
So look out on all our social media platforms around September the 10th. We'll be taking lots of photos and the interviews from the day. Hannah will appear in a future show alongside some of the music.
That's going to be really exciting, really good.
Excellent. In his interview, Stephen actually spoke about the global relevance of folk music today and across the world, highlighting the folk music of Haiti. So we end today's show with Haitian-American singer, songwriter and cellist, banjoist and guitarist Layla McCalla, and a song from her remarkable fourth album, Breaking the Thermometer, which delves into the history of Radio Haiti, the station that for decades confronted the corruption and brutality of the Republic's regimes. This is Fort Dimanche. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Est-ce que y a des moun ancien fois dimanche qui mettaient tête ensemble ou yon par la clope au moins?
Maline au pays sans chapeau, Maline au pays sans chapeau, porte à terre pas gommé, n'importe à faire, porte à terre pas gommé, n'importe à faire, Maline au pays sans chapeau, Maline au pays sans chapeau, faut-il m'acheter en prison tout veiller, faut-il m'acheter en prison tout veiller, ma coute yo voyem nan cachot prison, moi te fait, yeah, moi te fait, yeah.
You know, when I was growing up under Duvalier, during the Duvalier years of the dictatorship in Haiti, to me, it was a period of silence and of fear. I was 17, my family, my uncle, my aunt, and 4 of my cousins were arrested and they were killed. They were taken to Fort Dimanche, the infamous prison under the Duvalier regime, and they were killed. And to me, that event really marked my choice. I decided that I could no longer accept this to continue. And one way I thought I could change it is by being a journalist.
Faut-il m'acheter en prison sans conscience? Faut-il m'acheter en prison sans conscience? Ma coute yo voyem nan cachot prison, moi te fait, yeah, moi te fait, yeah. Maline au pays sans chapeau, Maline au pays sans chapeau.
Radio Lewes. Local community webcasting.